Hello friends, this is Barbie, also known as the Glitter Goblin. Today I'm going to show you the process that I used to use BetterPress plates with tissue paper and then to collage with that tissue paper. So what inspired me to even come up with this idea was Yana's poinsettia plate, okay, and Eileen Hull's little book die. So I cut this little book die that's about a 5 by 5, and I decided that one particular spray of Yana's plate would be great for the front cover. But I didn't want to fussy cut the whole thing out and, put it on BetterPress plate paper and go through all that with scissors. Just unimaginable pain in my book. So I decided to try to put it on tissue paper and then get it out with a water pen, a water brush, and collage it on instead. So a couple of things to notice here. Between my black chipboard and my actual design, which is pressed in black ink, I did end up using a sheet of music, because if I had just taken the black pressed image and Mod Podged it onto the black chipboard, it would have just blended in. So the other things I did is, so I had the chipboard book, I Mod Podged on the music paper, I Mod Podged on the tissue paper with my pressed image, and then I did actually BetterPress the flowers as well. And I did go in and fussy cut just the center of these flowers so I could kind of pop it up and give it a little bit of dimension. I colored everything with Olo markers and alcohol markers, and then went in and added Nuvo drops for the centers and the berries. And that is my picture. So I made this, and I made several pieces. And here are some of the other things that I did, just kind of in that same vein. Here's one where for the coloring, I used distress crayons. And I just have a few limited colors of those because I was just trying them out for the first time. So I haven't stocked up and expanded my range yet. So those are the colors I had to work with, and that's how that turned out. I did also try it on a piece of canvas where I took the music paper and a book page and put in the background. This one I pressed using blue ink instead of the black. I just wanted to see what it looked with more of a sky vibe instead of all that dark. So I tried that. Here was an extra bit that I had from one of my projects that I just put on a tiny little card to use, like I could poke a hole there and just hang it on a gift bag. And then here is a little bit that a couple pieces left over that I just pulled together onto a bookmark. This one I decided not to add any color to the flowers and berries. Instead, I just put some blue speckles in the background. And I thought that was kind of pretty the way it is. So here is the process. First, you get some tissue paper. And y'all, this is just, who knows? This might be out of a birthday package from around the house. It actually is not very wrinkled, so I'm thinking it's probably a newer piece. What I have done is folded it into 3, and I am going to get definitely one impression on the top, definitely a partial impression on the next one, and then the third is just for bonus because sometimes I have good enough luck to be able to get it to go through all 3. So I have my BetterPress plate and system here, and what I'm going to show you is that I have in here the 3 original shims that the machine comes with. Okay, 1, 2, 3, the official shims. And because I'm trying to get this ink to press through multiple layers, I also have 2 pieces of cardstock. Nothing special about them. It's just the 2 half sheets of cardstock that I found when I was looking for 2 half sheets of cardstock. All right, I'm going to use this plate, which is the Autumn Floral Corner. It says, "Your acts of kindness brighten my day." I don't know what will happen with the sentiment. I've never tried to BetterPress a sentiment before, but since I'm going to tear this out anyway, and I have this extra space here, I thought, well, what the heck? I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that if I put that on the sentiment on a piece of cardstock with Mod Podge, I believe that after it's dry, I will be able to, because it does come with a die cut, I believe that after it's completely dry, and like I might not try this till tomorrow morning, so you're not going to know today. Sorry, folks. After it's completely dry, I think I can just go ahead and die cut it, honestly. You know, as long as I've Mod Podged it to a piece of cardstock, it's obviously not going to die cut by itself on the tissue paper. Okay, I am taping down my four corners. Notice my tissue paper, I've cut and folded so it's a little bit oversized. Sometimes, you know, even though the Best Ever Craft tape doesn't stick and rip a lot of your cardstock, sometimes it does rip tissue paper, even if you're being gentle. So I like to have it a little extra big. So you'll notice this is, you know, this is the smaller square here, and I have extended my 3 layers of tissue paper well beyond that. All right. I do, when I'm using BetterPress paper, frequently use BetterPress ink, but for this particular project, I am using VersaFine Clair Nocturne. The blue one that you saw me use earlier was also VersaFine, or well, you didn't see me use it, but you saw the project I did with it. That was also a VersaFine. I don't remember the particular shade of blue that it's called, but I find that this is a little darker, a little inkier, and it goes through the tissue paper a little bit better, which is part of my goal. Now, I'm not going to waste a lot of time here, okay? I want to do this while the ink is still getting wet. Now, remember, I do have 2 extra layers of pressure. My table's going to shake here. I do not have a very sturdy table where I am filming, and so please excuse while I roll this through. I'm going to go ahead and roll it through. And you know what? I just don't feel like it's quite as dark as I want it to be. So I'm going to throw one more half sheet of cardstock on top. Okay, now I'm feeling a little pressure. Now it feels a little bit more like die cutting and a little bit less like better pressing, but that is what I'm looking for with this particular effect. So I'm setting my machine aside, removing this, and this, remember, is not my layer that is closest to my plate. Okay, my layer that was closest to the plate is this one, and it looks kind of fantastic, actually. I'm excited about it. So I'm gonna tear off my tape really quickly and see what my other layers end up looking like. Sorry, I'm blocking all the view. And I know this plastic lid kind of causes a glare, so I'm going to get that out of your way as quickly as I can. All right, so here we go. And this is my, this is my first impression and my second impression, so I'm really pleased with that as well. And then the third one, you know, will I use that on a project? Probably not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and separate these. There's number 2. Here's number 3. And I'm going to work with this that's number 1 very quickly. And guys, all I do is I take one of these water brushes. And of course, if you don't have one of these, you can use just a regular pen and pencil. And I am just trying to get this out of the paper right now. So, and I find for me, it feels better to tear fairly frequently while I know that that water is still wet. So I'm going to go ahead and tear down to here. And y'all, I'm not trying to be precise about this. This is all going to fade in as I use the Mod Podge. And if you don't have Mod Podge, I have seen people, and I've done it myself, use just like PVA glue, like white school glue, Elmer's type glue, and mix it about 2/3 glue and 1/3 water. And you can use that instead of Mod Podge. I'm just going to go ahead and tear this chunk off real quick. All right, then going across the bottom is pretty easy. I'm just kind of scalloping it. You know, nothing official, nothing fancy here. Because those little edges kind of blend in to your paper once you start laying down your Mod Podge or glue. All right, almost done here. So you see why I liked this idea as opposed to fussy cutting. And of course, that's, like I said, how this idea was kind of born. All right, and what I'm gonna do is I am just going to Mod Podge this onto a piece of craft stock. I am going to paint the whole thing with Mod Podge because I don't want like this part of it to be glossy and this part to be matte. So to me, it makes sense just to do the whole thing. I do use old cereal bags. I cut them open and give them a good wipe down and get the crumbs off. And then I use them underneath when I'm doing things like Mod Podge and paint because if I want to reuse this cereal bag, this Mod Podge, after it dries, it's just going to just peel off. Or if I decide that I've destroyed it too much, I can throw it away and nobody cares because it was a cereal bag that was on its way to the trash anyway, right? I rescued it for extra use before it found its final resting place. So I'm not real particular here about how even I'm putting this on. I mean, I'll try to even it out a little bit, but I'm not, what does the British say? I'm not fussed about it. All right, so now I'm just going to add this on. Kind of over here on the side. I probably got it a little bit too far from the bottom. Probably should have put it a little off the bottom. And you guys, a lot of times what I will do is I will leave this ink dry for a couple of hours before I start this process. So if it starts to smear when I start painting it, don't look at this and say, oh, this technique is stupid. Just allow yours time to dry. But this is all of my second video that I've made for crafting, and I'm just not super technologically proficient, and I don't want to try to stop and pause and come back after an hour drying time or whatever. And actually this VersaFine is doing okay. All right, so just going back over the image itself with some more Mod Podge to hold it down. Okay, now once this dries, which will not be on during our camera time, but once this dries, I can color it with alcohol markers. I can use distressed crayons on it. I have not experimented with other kinds of mediums. I imagine that acrylic paint and thicker paint would work. Maybe even luscious powder or some pigment powder mixed with water to sort of, you know, if you keep it thicker. But I think if you use anything too watery, like a water paint, I think that will kind of slide off or bubble up and not really dry for you. All right, so a couple of things that I want to talk about before I end. I am almost done. All right, so this was white tissue paper on the craft stock. I just want to show you very quickly that your image changes depending on the color of paper that you're using. All right, so I am, okay. I'm just going to take this image number 2 and kind of hack into it a little bit. I'm going to take this flower out. As you can see, I'm kind of destroying it. I'm really going more for speed here than perfection, so forgive me if this looks a little bonkers. I'm going to take the flower out. I'm going to take out these mushrooms. Starting to think maybe I should have prepped some of this ahead of time. I do have a point though. Please hold. All right, I ripped one mushroom, but that's just my speed. And then, whew, I'm gonna take out this last section of leaves. I just wanna show you what it looks like on the different paper so that you realize that that makes a difference too. If you want to be able, when you're doing your coloring, for your picture to start off pretty pure so that your inks, your paints, everything is a little bit more pure, then you're going to want to just Mod Podge onto white. Okay. I am going to try very quickly just some colors. So I have this yellow, and y'all, these were just scraps that were nearby when I was looking for stuff earlier. So I'm going to add this flower. Ooh, thank goodness it was small. Let me slide it a little bit because I was not aiming for the paper there. So I'm going to add this flower to the yellow. Really, you should start from the middle and paint out so you don't, I don't know if you noticed me almost ripping that up earlier. But again, I'm trying to be cognizant of your time here. So another thing that makes a difference, guys, is the actual color of the tissue paper. So the falling pumpkin, is it falling pumpkins or raining pumpkins? That was the BetterPress Society plate, I think in October. I have pressed that onto yellow tissue paper before. Okay, and then once your Mod Podge is good and dry, you can go back and use your stencil. Right? So I could, on that one, I could go back and use some oranges and some darker yellows, maybe a lighter yellow oxide, you know, to add the stenciling to that. Green and brown for your stems, but I already have the main yellow on there. So that is a cool effect as well. And of course, tissue paper comes in all kinds of varieties, folks. I mean, you can get the kind that's got some gold flecks in it. And, you know, especially this time of the year, all those wonderful, lovely things. Okay, so here's what we have. Sorry about that camera rocking. I'm in this really small space, and every time I move, my foot kicks it or something else crazy happens. So here's your different effects that you get by using the different colors of cardstock. All of that, of course, is with the white tissue paper. This is starting to dry. I've got a little bit hanging off here, and I can either tuck that under with my fingers. There's enough sticky, really, just to kind of stick it down on the other side. Or I could have chopped it off with a pair of scissors, and that would have been fine. So it's starting to dry. It's getting there. Pretty soon I'll be able to do something with it. And I can go back and add that sentiment if I want, or, you know, add that to a completely different project. Here is one that I did earlier that is pretty much dry. I think I could color on this at this point. So I could just get out those markers and go for it, or the distress crayons and go for it. So folks, that is what I have to share for you today. I know that with something like the BetterPress, that's a whole new system, people debate about whether to buy it. And I totally get that. You know, it's, oh gosh, first I buy the system, then I have to buy all the new plates. And where does it end? It's just more. And, you know, you might be thinking, well, all it does is press, you know, kind of deboss into the paper. But now you can see here's another use for it as well. So if you love those plates and the elegance that comes with those plates, you can use them in this way also. All right. And any of this stuff, the colored cardstock, BetterPress plates, BetterPress system, we do sell at Scrappy Shack. If you don't live anywhere near us here in Northeast Georgia, that is scrappyshack.com, SCRAPPYSHAK.com. Thanks, bye.